All right, friends, we're going to pick up where we left off a couple days ago with our solving two-step word problems. So you guys were supposed to complete this part right here on page 229. That was your homework a couple days ago. And we're just kind of going to run through what we found. So like always, I'm going to start off with my first sentence. Gabby collects 25 eggs. Her brother collects 13 eggs. Then they sell 18 eggs. How many eggs do they have now? I see that I have three numbers, but if I read it back out loud, we say how many Gigi has, or how many Gabby has, and then how many her brother has, and then they take away 18 from that amount. So I see that I have two-step problems. My first step I need to figure out is how many do they have all together before they even give away? So Gabby has 25 eggs, and her brother collects 13 eggs. So to find the total, we're going to add those two together. So 25 plus 13. So when I do 25 plus 13, I'm going to add my ones together. So 5 plus 3 equals 8, and 2 plus 1 equals 3. So I get 38. Now that I have 38, I have my answer for Gabby collects 25, her brother collects 13. Now I have a total together, they collected 38. Then they sell 18. So when you sell something, you're getting rid of it, right? So that brings me to my next part of the equation. Remember, we're doing two-step word problems. So that first step was combining our two numbers between Gabby and her brother. We found that. And now we have to take away 18. So I'm going to take my answer. So I cannot do step 2 until I do step 1. We completed step 1, so I'm going to start with 38 because that's how many they have all together. And they got rid of 18. So if you get rid of something, you're going to subtract, right? So 13 or 38 minus 18. Like always, I'm going to start with my ones. Do I have more up top or more on the floor? Or when the numbers are the same, 0 is the gain. My numbers are the same, so 0 is my gain. And then 3 minus 1 equals 20. So how many eggs do they have now? They have 20 eggs. So that should be your answer. If you did not get that answer, I want you to look back at your three numbers. Maybe you just added all the numbers together. Maybe you only took 18 away from 25. We have to take it step by step. Remember, these word problems are tricky. They are pushing us. They're challenging us. So make sure you get that first step, and then you get your second step, and you get your answer. We're going to continue talking about this problem on our next page. So the next page is not where we write. We're just going to kind of look at what they did. So if I go to my next page, they went ahead and they drew a picture of what this was. We know that when we work with numbers that have two digits, so like 25 has two digits, 13 has two digits. When we start working with those type of problems, we know that when we start drawing it, it becomes a lot to draw, right? So that's the reason why drawing it isn't the most beneficial to do every single time, but when we first start out, it can help us kind of understand what's going on. So Gabby collects 25 eggs. So she drew 25 eggs. There's the 25 right there. And then it says her brother collects 13. There's the 13. So when you put them together, they added, and they got a grand total of 38 eggs. They went ahead and they drew all 38. Don't pay attention to these lines right now. They have 38 total. Then they got rid of 18, so they went ahead and they scratched out 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So they crossed them out, and then they had to see how many eggs did they have left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You can see with drawing every single one of these and then counting again, it takes a little bit extra time. That's the reason why our goal is to kind of get to these strategies that we were doing over here. But sometimes it does help to picture it. That's that strategy. picture it. Our next strategy that we can do is just the model it strategy. We've worked with these before. They kind of look like number bonds, but these are called bar models. So you can add a model of each step. All they did here is they did our first number, 25 plus 13, and that equals 38. This looks just like our number bond that goes like this. You do not have to write this down, friends. This is just something so you guys can say, oh, this looks familiar. This is just another way to write it. So remember when we work with number bonds, this is another way of writing it. They're putting two of those boxes together and it equals their total. Then they go to step 2. They said our total was 38 and they're going to take away 18. I know when a problem is set up like this that I'm going to subtract because I have my largest number and then I have one of my small numbers. I have to find that other small number. So to find that other small number, I have to do 38 minus 18. Remember, when we get two numbers down here, we're adding to get to this number. But if we're missing one of those numbers, can we add? No, because we don't know that number, so we have to subtract. So like earlier, when our numbers are the same, 0 is the game, and then 3 minus 1 is 2. So that question mark is 20. Friends, this is the same information that we just looked at. We're just kind of looking at different strategies on how or why they did picture, or you can do a model. So let's look at this Connect It page. It says, look at picture it. That's this strategy right over here. Picture it. Write an equation for step 1. So we're going to look at step 1. Step 1, 25 eggs plus 13 eggs. Well, if I were to write an equation, I would just do 25 plus 13, right? I don't need the words. So 25 plus 13. We found out that if we add those two numbers together, we get our grand total of 38. We found that on our first one, right? Remember when we stacked it? When we added those two together, we got 38. So I'm going to write 38. Because if we add these two numbers together, we get 38. They also tell us that right here. And then for our next one, it says, look at model it. Write an equation for step 2. So this time it's looking for step 2 of model it. So I'm going to go to model it. This is step 2. What is an equation we used for step 2? We did not add because we're missing that number, but we can subtract. We took our largest number minus our smaller number. So we did 38 minus 18 equals 20. These are the exact, ooh, that was kind of cool. These are the exact same equations, friends, that we found on our very first page. We are just kind of reviewing that. How many eggs do Gabby and her brother have now? Well, we solved that. They have 20 eggs now. How can you tell if a problem needs 2 steps to solve? So I want us to think about that. How did I know that it needed 2 steps to solve our problem? How did I know that? I knew it by reading it. So the reason why we knew that we needed 2 steps is we had to solve our first step to answer our second step. Remember, we had 25 eggs, and then her brother collected 13, and then they gave 18 away. We can't solve how many they have now until we solve this part up here, that's step 1. We had to have that step 1 to go on to step 2. We had to have it because our answer is 38, and that's what we started out with. If we didn't do step 1, we wouldn't know where to start for problem number 2. It would be really difficult. So we had to solve our first step to answer our second step. If you need some time to write this down, go ahead and press pause. If you do not, I want you to go ahead and look down here where it says Look back at your try it strategies by classmates and picture it and model it. Which models or strategies do you like best for solving two-step word problems? So you can choose picture it, where you draw the picture like we did over here. You can do the model it, or you can do what I did, which was the equations. So maybe, friends, when you are telling me what you like to do, maybe you're at that point where you're like, it's still kind of hard for me to understand how we get to the equation. So maybe your strategies that you like would be picture it or model it. If you don't need those two steps and you're like, I can just go straight into the equations, go ahead and say that. Everybody is at a different step and everybody likes to start different. So go ahead and tell me what you like there. When you're finished, or you can go ahead and pause, and we are going to move to the next page. So I'm going to get ready to move on. So if you're not ready, go ahead and pause and then play me when you are ready. Okay, we are going to start with our numbers right here. So number 6 is Finn has 57 markers. So I'm going to circle 57. He gives 15 markers to his brother. Then he gets 22 new markers. How many markers does Finn have now? Show your work. So when I read this problem, I know that it kind of gives me 3 different numbers. When it gives me 3 different numbers, a lot of the time that tells me I have to do multiple steps. So I'm going to read it one more time. Finn has 57 markers. He gives 15 markers to his brother, and then he gets 22 new markers. So if I start out with 57, I'm going to put a 1 in a circle to show that that's my first step. So Finn has 57 markers, right? 57. If he gives 15 markers to his brother, he's giving them away, right? So if we give something away, we're going to subtract. So 57 minus 15. I'm going to stop there. I have to solve that problem first. So I'm just going to write it over here just to kind of help me. 57 minus 15. I have to solve that before I can even talk about getting any new markers. I have to solve how many I have right now. So 7 minus 5. So if I start with my 1s, I have more on top, don't stop. More on the floor, go next door and borrow some more. So 7 minus 5 equals 2. 5 minus 1 equals 4. So I know that equals 42. Am I done? No, I have to go on to my next part. So that brings me to step 2. I'm going to start with what I had, 42. I'm going to start with my answer. That's the reason why I have to solve that first part. So after he gives away 15 markers, we know that he has 42. It says then he gets 22 new markers. So if he gets 22 new markers, he's getting more markers, right? So 42 plus 22. So if I add 42 plus 22, I'm going to start with my 1s. 2 plus 2 equals 4. 4 plus 2 equals 6. So my final answer, how many markers does he have now? He has 64 markers now. If you need anything repeated, you can go ahead and rewind. If you need more time to write, go ahead and pause. I'm going to move forward. So number 7, there are 2 bottles of juice that each hold 32 fluid ounces. How many bottles are there? There are 2 bottles. This is important information. 2 bottles, and each of them hold 32 fluid ounces. Julia's family drinks 48 fluid ounces of juice. How many fluid ounces are left? So they went ahead and they gave us step 1 and step 2. They gave us that model it strategy. So first off, we have to figure out how many, oops, sorry, I kind of shook that. How many fluid ounces do they have to begin with? It says there are 2 bottles of juice that each hold 32 fluid ounces. So 2 bottles that each hold 32. So that means one holds 32 and my other holds 32. I need to see how many in all I have. And I'm just looking at the 2 bottles of fluid ounces. So I'm going to do 32 plus 32. Because this model tells me I have to add these numbers to get my bigger number. 2 plus 2 equals 4. 3 plus 3 equals 6. So I have 64. Okay, I'm not finished yet because now it says Julia's family drinks 48 fluid ounces of juice. How many fluid ounces are left? So before you drink something, you need a total amount, right? Well, we just found that total amount. That total amount was 64. So this 64 is also going to go here because that's how many they had all together, right? We added both their bottles and they had a grand total of 64. If you drink 48 of them, you drink 48 ounces. That tells me that number is going away. I have my larger number and I'm drinking 48 of the 64. So that tells me I'm going to get another small number. So to do that, I'm going to do 64 minus 48. I'm going to go ahead and stack it to solve. So I'm going to start with my ones, 4 and 8. More on top, don't stop. More on the floor, go next door and borrow some more. 8 is bigger than 4, so I have more on the floor. So I have to go next door. My 6 becomes a 5 because I'm taking a 10 away, and I'm moving that 10 over here. So now I have 14 minus 8. I'm going to go ahead, and you can either count backwards from 14, or you can count up from 8. I'm going to count up from 8. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then 5 minus 4 equals 1. So I have 16 fluid ounces are left. Don't forget that we have to put 16 right up here. 16 fluid ounces are left.